Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our webinar today. My name is Georgia Kicklighter, and I am the Director of Business Development here at Destination America. And it is my very great pleasure to introduce John Navarro, who is our travel experiences developer. And he will be talking about his region today, which is our lovely East Coast of the United States and Canada. Before we jump in, I'm sure all of you know Joyce Chow, who's also joining us today. And we're going to go through the presentation. Our plan was to have questions typed in the chat. That is not working. So if I might ask, if you have a question during the webinar, please do send an email to Joyce. I know you all have her email address, or you can send her your question on WhatsApp, and we will answer all the questions at the end of the webinar. So thank you so much. And with that, John, take it away.
All right, thanks, Georgia. Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my. There we go. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. My name is John Navarro, and as Georgia mentioned, I am the travel experiences developer here at Destination America. I help manage our East Coast, USA, and Eastern Canada product. I've been extremely fortunate to be able to experience the falls from both the US and the Canada side, both for my own personal travels with my family, and then also several times as a tour guide in one of my previous roles with our sister company. So I've been to Niagara Falls a bunch of times, and I'm really excited to share a little bit more about the region. And what I thought I'd do first is just sort of start off with a little bit of background information, and then I'll go into the United States side of the falls and talk a little bit about the benefits and the location. And then I'll go into the Canadian side of things, and then we'll kind of go through and talk a little bit about the benefits and similarities and some of the differences between the two. But I thought I would start off with just giving a little bit of background information on Niagara Falls itself, just for those of you who haven't been there before. So when we say Niagara Falls, really what we're doing is we're talking about three different waterfalls that sort of combine together to make Niagara Falls, and that's Horseshoe Falls on the Canada side, and that's the one to your right on the slide here, and then American Falls to the left, and then that smaller one which is Bridal Veil Falls on the US side. So together they make up what we normally refer to as Niagara Falls. And together the three make the second largest waterfall in the world, second only to Victoria Falls in Africa. And together they actually make the biggest waterfall by flow rate. And to give it a little perspective, there's about over 3,000 tons of water that fall over the falls every second. That's 75,000 gallons from the American side, and a staggering 680,000 gallons per second over Horseshoe Falls in Canada. And again, to give you a little bit of perspective, that's 70 Olympic-sized swimming pools every minute. And so for this reason, and in addition to the natural beauty of the area, Niagara Falls is often considered an honorary eighth wonder of the world. In terms of location, the nearest city to the north of Niagara Falls in Canada is Toronto, which is about 90 minutes north, and then about 20 minutes south is Buffalo, New York. So that kind of hopefully gives you a little bit of a picture in terms of background of Niagara Falls. And so, excuse me, I thought I'd start by going over the benefits of experiencing Niagara Falls on the USA side. So probably the most notable, especially if you're traveling from other US cities, is that there's no additional visa or passport requirements to consider when visiting because you're not technically crossing the border. Um, Niagara Falls is also within close proximity to major East Coast cities like Washington, D.C., Boston, Philadelphia, and of course, New York City, really making it one of it's a perfect destination to add on to an itinerary as an extension. And I'll talk a little bit more about the distance between all of them in a couple of slides. But one of the best features of the American side is Niagara Falls State Park, which has plenty of vantage points and a lot of different walkways and a lot of ways that you can sort of see and experience the falls. This is actually a photo of my grandparents and my sister from a trip that we took back in 2016. Niagara Falls, coincidentally, was the top of the bucket list for my grandpa. So my sister and I took him a few years back, and we had just had an amazing time. And he was like a kid, just kind of realizing a dream. So it was an amazing moment for my family and I. And in addition to that, there are plenty of optional experiences that guests can participate in that really complement their experience. And this is everything ranging from iconic experiences, which I'll touch on, to some soft adventure as well. So I thought I can just kind of pop in here. So in regards to proximity, so I mentioned the gateway cities and thought that this would give you a, it would be helpful to give you some visual reference to the distance between the major cities. So Niagara Falls is located on the top left-hand corner of the map there in that blue marker. And the most direct way to get to Niagara Falls on the US side would be to hop on a flight to Buffalo. So from any one of these cities, you're looking at about an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes to about an hour and a half flight, depending on what city you're flying from. Alternatively, and probably most common, is to drive to Niagara Falls. And so depending again on which city you're coming from, you're looking at about 5.5 to 7 hours each way. The most popular routing is from NYC, which would be about 6 to 6.5 hours each way. Now, if you are really tight on time with your itinerary, it is possible to do a day trip from New York City. I know that's something that I considered when I went with my family. But even though it is possible, I'd probably recommend against it just from an experiential standpoint. Because it really is a long day if you do it that way, but it is possible. So let's pop into a couple of experiences. So jumping straight into the highlights, I thought I'd start with Niagara Falls State Park, which I mentioned earlier. The park was established in 1885 and is actually America's oldest state park. It's 400 acres full of trails, walkways, and the really neat thing is it's open all year round, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, which is great because each season has a unique element to it. So, of course, in summer, the weather is great. It's very sunny. During the fall, you get the added value of the beauty of the fall foliage. During winter, it becomes a winter wonderland with icy water and sort of snow all around the area. And then, of course, in spring, you get this really nice, lush landscape and viewpoint. So, in my opinion, it's great to visit any time of year because there are, like I said, a lot of different vantage points. You can walk around on the different trails, and there's also a trolley that you can hop on, and it'll take you to a bunch of different viewpoints as well. So, Niagara Falls State Park is sort of like home base when you're experiencing the park. Another way that you can experience Niagara Falls is Cave of the Winds. So Cave of the Winds is a very popular experience. So as you can see here from the image, it really gets you close to the falls, probably closer than you thought was possible. Guests will take an elevator about 175 feet or 53 meters deep into the Niagara Gorge. By then, you will follow a tour guide over a series of wooden walkways that you can see here and ultimately that lead up to a very famous deck called Hurricane Deck. And as you're standing at the railing, you're about 20 meters away and face to face with Bridal Veil Falls. You really can't get much closer. The water is rushing down on you, and you can typically see rainbows throughout the day. So it's a really popular experience and one that you can definitely do on the US side of things. Also, when it comes to dining, there is an option to visit Top of the Falls restaurant. Now, Top of the Falls restaurant is the only restaurant in on the U.S. side that overlooks Niagara Falls. The menu offers modern American cuisine, classic dishes that have a little bit of the local flavor. And even better, as you can see here, each dish is accompanied by spectacular views of Niagara Falls. The venue is located again in the park that I was just mentioning, and it overlooks a very popular viewpoint called Terrapin Point. And the really nice thing about the restaurants you can sort of see here from the image is that there are floor to ceiling windows that wrap around the restaurant. And also, you can't see here, but there's also outdoor dining decks as well. So an awesome experience. I know shopping is I know I saw it on my trips when I was on the road. Shopping is a big consideration for a lot of travelers into the US, and Niagara Falls is no different. So there is a fashion outlet of Niagara Falls, which is, uh, I'd say, the premier shopping outlet for Western New York. It's just minutes away from the US-Canadian border. There are more than 200 different brands, including Nike, Saks Fifth Avenue, Adidas, and Polo and Ralph Lauren. So, and of course, many, many more. Excuse me. So, talked a little bit about what you can do in the U.S. Of course, one of the more iconic experiences that you can have in either country is a boat cruise around the base of the falls. So there's a picture of my family up there on the top right, and then me right here on the bottom. Made of the Mist on the New York side is probably the more iconic between the two because it has been in operation for over 150 years. It had its first voyage in 1846, and throughout the decades, throughout the years, it's evolved in a lot of different ways, and very exciting. But in 2020, they just finished completion on two new all-electric vessels, which is pretty amazing when you think about like the fact that before Maid of the Mist was operating trips back and forth, the only way that you can get across was by rowboat. Um, and so the easiest way that I've always remembered is Maid of the Mist is the blue ponchos, and Niagara City cruises in Canada are the red ponchos. And really, with either cruise, you get to enjoy stunning views of the gorge, both the American Bridal Veil Falls, and you really close to Horseshoe Falls. And I can tell you, after doing this several times, there really is no substitute for being really up close to the falls. The water is just coming down, and it's actually just a lot of fun. So it's definitely a must do, regardless of what side that you visit. Another option is to enjoy the Niagara Wine region. So, of course, with Niagara Falls being in the area and the gushing of water, both countries have a very unique geographical characteristics and a microclimate, if you will, which is really suitable for the production of various fruits. So it's a really ripe for making Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Riesling, Cabernet Sauvignon. Um, and also there's a lot of native and hybrid grapes in the area. And because of the unique climate, ice wine and mead, which is it's like a honey wine, they're also crafted in the area as well. And so whether you're visiting the U.S. side or the Canadian side, there are definitely options that we can package. You can also include lunch options as well. There's also small, charming towns like Niagara on the Lake that has a lot of antique shops and restaurants and cafes. So if you have the time, if you're spending a little bit, especially if you're doing an overnight, that's definitely an area that I would recommend visiting. So that sort of leads us right into the Canadian side of things. So a few of the benefits by staying on this side. Of course, as I mentioned before, Toronto is only about an hour and a half away, which makes a day trip very, very easy. Actually, probably a little easier than the U.S. side of things. There's a saying that you can see the falls from the U.S., but you really get to feel the falls on the Canada side. So as you can see here, the main reason for that is there's a pedestrian trail you can kind of see on the bottom left-hand side that really takes you from the edge and takes you all along the walkway of the falls. And because Horseshoe Falls has about 10 times more the amount of water cascading over, you can really hear and you can really feel the thundering sound that makes. And then the top left-hand corner, this is Table Rock Center, which serves as it's sort of the historical reference when it comes to visitor centers. So there's a lot of unique architecture in this building. There's Grab and Go Cafe. There's a lot of historical information, and as you can see, it's right up on the edge of the falls, so you can really get a unique view from there. And I've sat there with the coffee, and you can just hear the thundering sound, and it's actually very unique and really cool. Also, there's a slight difference when it comes to just what you're able to see. So on the Canada side, because that pedestrian walkway sort of follows the base of the all along the falls, you actually get a really, really nice panoramic view of all three of the falls. Whereas when you're on the US side of things, you're sort of overlooking the US side of the falls, but you can't really see Horseshoe Falls. I mean, you see it in the distance, you obviously can't miss it, but you don't really get a full scope of the whole side of the falls. So a little bit more of a unique view from the Canadian side. And in terms of entertainment and leisure time, Canada also has plenty of options, including outdoor activities. The Clifton Hill Entertainment District, which is photographed here on the right, has a lot of shopping. It has the Niagara Sky observation wheel and plenty of local attractions that you can take part in during your time there. And then similarly to the US side, I decided to add a little visual reference as well. So you can see Niagara Falls there in the blue marker. I mentioned Toronto is only about a 90-minute drive. There's also a train line that you can take from Toronto as well, if that's the way that your guests were traveling. And then Ottawa, Montreal, and Quebec City. You're looking at about 5 to 7 hours of drive time, with of course Quebec City being the furthest of those. Um, so really, but they're actually a little bit closer than the U.S. cities. So you can really travel by driving or by train. And in terms of flights into Toronto, that's probably the easiest way. The easiest gateway would be to fly into Toronto, and you're looking at about an hour to an hour and a half from either Ottawa, Montreal, or Quebec City. So, and then also I mentioned Niagara on the Lake. That's that sort of charming town that has the wineries, the shopping, and the boutique shops, and that's only about a 25-minute drive um, from the falls. So again, great to visit if you have a little extra time in the falls. So now when we're talking about attractions on the Canada side, Skyline Tower is probably has the most famous restaurant in all of Niagara Falls. You can just have a look at that view. The Skyline Tower offers two great levels of fine dining. Both are 775 feet above the falls, and they're really famous and well known for their revolving dining room restaurant. So the restaurant silently rotates 360 degrees every hour, giving diners sort of that consistent and constantly changing vantage point. Um, and it's really the most breathtaking view in probably all of Niagara Falls. Another thing, I was very fortunate enough to do this a couple of times, and that's a helicopter ride around Niagara Falls. And this really allows guests to combine adventure with really once in a lifetime memories and vantage points. So the ride follows the Niagara River along the whirlpool and up over the bridge. They get to see Queen Victoria Park on the Canadian side, and it stretches all across American Falls. They'll go by Skyline Tower, and just when you think, or just when it looks like they're going to go back to landing, the helicopter sort of changes direction and follows the curve of the Canadian Horseshoe Falls. And it's what makes it really neat is that rainbows appear and disappear from all different directions as you sort of get the reflection from down the water. So again, sort of a bucket list item and something that's very doable while you're there. And because you're not traveling, so for example, in other destinations, when you're taking helicopter rides, you're not really having to travel a lot of distance to get to the destination. So it actually doesn't take a big chunk of your day to be able to do it. Another really popular thing is Journey Behind the Falls. So this is similar to Cave of the Winds, where guests will descend, in this instance, about 125 feet by elevator. They'll get to these short tunnels that give access to two observation decks, or they're really like portals that cut directly through the bedrock. So it gives a really, really unique vantage point. So it's about 1/3 of the way down from the falls, and you'll get to walk on this upper and lower observation decks. at the foot, and you get to learn a little bit more about the falls. And you'll notice that a theme in Niagara Falls is that everyone's always wearing ponchos, especially during the spring and summer. So Journey Behind the Falls, you get those bright yellow ponchos. So yeah, a really great way to experience the falls. This is a relatively new experience. So this is your opportunity to zip line to the falls, and the great thing about this experience that it's both for those who tend to be a bit more thrill seeking, but it was also designed and made for people who might be a little hesitant as well and may not necessarily be as quick to jump out of their comfort zone. So it takes guests past the American and Canadian side of the falls, and it's really a great hands-free, worry-free, and fully guided experience. And also for any guests, or if you're staying overnight by the falls, you also have the option to do this experience at night, where you can see the falls being illuminated for an even different and unique perspective. As I mentioned, as the US had a shopping component, so does Canada. So the Canada One outlets are located on Lundy's Lane, which is about 10 minutes or so outside of Niagara Falls. There's an incredible selection of brand name stores as well, home to over 20 outlets. So it's not as large as the US outlets, but still pretty decent size, and also has brands like Coach, Tommy Hilfiger, and Guess. And when it comes to hotels, I also wanted to quickly highlight how diverse our hotel offerings are with Destination America. So on the US side, these are just a few of the properties that we offer. On the image below, or in the image below, you can see that Skyline Tower and the Canadian side of the falls are just behind the Sheraton, which means that the falls are just a few minutes away. The Doubletree by Hilton is also along the Niagara River, just a couple blocks away from the state park. We also work with a lot of value-minded brands like Holiday Inn, which offer great quality, and that's a standard room there on the top right-hand corner. They also have breakfast every morning, and they have a lot of grab-and-go options. And I think one of the most important things that I'd like to sort of get across as well is that because we work with so many, we have our own internal brands that we work with, and we're able to leverage our passenger base across multiple brands throughout the season. So we're really able to get some really favorable negotiated rates. And that's true for Canada. And that's also true for all of the experiences that I mentioned as well. So just thought I'd mention that. And then also, similarly in Canada, we also offer a wide range of hotel accommodations that range from the Marriott Falls View, which you can see there on the left, where every room features stunning views of the falls. Similar case for the Hilton Falls View. And what's unique about the Hilton Falls View Hotel is that there's also a connecting walkway to the casino. And we also have value-minded options like Best Western Plus properties nearby as well. And like I mentioned, again, we have an incredible negotiating power when it comes to being able to deliver very favorable rates to you and your clients. And yeah, that's sort of a quick. I feel like I kind of went through that. I feel really long-winded there, but yeah, just to recap, there are definitely similarities between the two sides. Each offer their own unique experience and have their own benefits. I have no doubt that your guests will enjoy their time at the falls, regardless of which country they do it in. It really just depends on where you're coming from, how long you have, and sort of how you fit Niagara into the larger itinerary. But one thing I definitely know for sure from working on the road and also in my role now is that Destination America can definitely help organize your time, your budget, and experience so that you really get to maximize your time in the area. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me. So, from my perspective, anyway, I want to thank you for your time this morning. Hopefully, you learned a little bit more about the falls and what we can offer. And I think I'll turn it over to Georgia here. But of course, please feel free to reach out to Joyce if there are any other further questions or if you'd like a quote on anything. So, Georgia, I'll kick it back to you.
Thank you so much, John. And thank you everybody for joining us today. One of the things that Destination America really prides itself on is trying to create unique experiences. Our taglines are is experts in travel experiences. So, we're not just trying to redo the same itinerary over and over again. If you have clients and customers who are looking for something new and different, we have an entire team of travel experience development, which is what John is a member of, that go on the road, that try everything, that meet these new attractions and experiences in the destination itself so that we can bring you that level of knowledge, understanding, and of course, matching the right experience to the right customer. And that's what we specialize in addition to the enormous buying power that John touched on. I want to give an opportunity. I'm going to try to give an opportunity to see if we can take some questions. I am crossing my fingers because I think that there is a way that I can call on people. So if you are watching this in the Teams window, at the top right hand side, you'll see a number of image icons. And one of them is a smiley face with a hand. And if you click the hand, you'll see a number of different emojis pop up, and there is a hand emoji, which is to raise a hand for questions. So if anybody would like to ask any questions, either about this presentation or, in general, about the United States or Canada or South America, happy to field those questions at this time. In addition, if you have any questions and perhaps you don't want to raise your hand at this time, feel free to send an email to Joyce. We have our general inbox here on the bottom of the page. And you can also start following us on LinkedIn. We're going to start continuing to post a lot of great updates there as well. I'm also sure many of you are aware of our new newsletter, which is going to be launching in the next month or so. And that newsletter is a great way for us to kind of keep you informed about the new experiences that we're finding, highlighting new destinations, new hotel partners, and giving you some ideas about different itineraries that you can put together for your customer. So if you have not yet signed up, Joyce does have the link to do so. I would encourage anybody to sign up. We'll also be posting information about future webinars and FAMILs as well once everything is starting to open up a little bit more. But since we have everyone on the call, we are looking at having our next webinar on August the 11th. And it is a great one. It's about the islands of Hawaii. So hopefully you're able to join us for that as well. And Joyce will be sending out an official invite. But we really appreciate everyone's time. I'm still looking to see if the question button is working, and it doesn't look like I have any questions. So with that, we'll go ahead and end our webinar. And thank you all so much for joining. Please reach out to myself or to Joyce with any questions and, of course, quote requests. And we look forward to making your trips a real journey experience. So thank you so much. And thank you, John.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time this morning.